In many ways, Sonic Frontiers is the experience the fandom has always dreamed of. An ambitious and epic open-world adventure that delivers on the promise of Sonic going fast. This is an important point to make as we go forth with this list, as many will think our pitches for the sequel undermine and even degrade the success of Sonic Frontiers. Again, we enjoyed our time with Sonic Frontiers, but that doesn't mean it wasn't without faults, and there's definitely room for improvement heading into future installments. So, if we were lead developers on the Sonic Frontiers sequel, these are the 5 pitches we would have. Number 5. A united frontier. Sprinting around the sprawling open-world areas is, as you'd hope, one of the best parts of this open-world odyssey. The islands you dash about on are suitably large playgrounds for you to test the limits of your road running. But sometimes when you run around as Sonic, we couldn't help but feel as if the main hub world lacked logic. As you progress through the game, you visit various islands, and as you do so, the biomes change accordingly. The issue here is that the traversal sections don't match the biome you are in. They're always these ugly-looking rock and steel structures. Even the biggest Sonic fan can't deny that the implementation of these traversal sections lacks cohesion, ultimately looking like they were designed using Halo's Forge. Due to this fact, the traversal sections end up feeling isolated, simply copy and paste it onto each different biome. When we think of a game that implemented a similar gameplay philosophy in a much more cohesive way, our minds immediately jump back to 2014's Sunset Overdrive. Looking at this gameplay, we can't be the only ones that think Sonic should be able to roam in a similar cohesive way. Admittedly, we could have probably just said Insomniac to make the Sonic game as one of our pitches, but that would be too easy. After all, what we're asking for isn't groundbreaking. Platformers naturally do this all the time. Imagine if you were to visit a jungle island within the game, and instead of using the steel scaffolding-esque structures to traverse throughout the land, Sonic jumps on lily pads or leaves to get an air boost, skating along vines and branches to reach the next obstacle. The speed at which Sonic maneuvers through the environment might make this more difficult for the player, but it would also make Sonic much more fun and rewarding to master. A Frontiers sequel that can better implement its traversal sections natively into its world would make Sonic far more fun to play as. Number 4. Better cutscenes. So before we get into talking about some major issues with the cutscenes in this game, let's take a moment to acknowledge how well written the characters are here, with Amy, Rose, and Tails being particular standouts. For decades, both of these characters have been quite one-dimensional, and Sonic Frontiers does a great job of adding layers to them. These feel like characters that belong in a modern video game. So with that said, the story and the characters are good, but the presentation of these elements is pretty bad. You may be familiar with the cutscene movie genre on YouTube. Creators will piece together all the cutscenes from a particular game, so users can experience the main narrative without the gameplay sections. There is a number of these compilations online already for Sonic Frontiers, and honestly, we can't think of one good reason why anyone would sit through and watch this. Again, the writing and motivations for the cast of characters are all great, but every cutscene just comes across as so lifeless and boring. There are a handful of action sequences, but for the most part, the characters just stand around, awkwardly turn and deliver lines. There are so many platformers that are miles ahead of what is on display in this game. Honestly, at this point in the Sonic franchise, the cutscenes should resemble the upcoming Sonic Prime show. Heck, did anyone see the Knuckles prologue for Sonic Frontiers? Incredible. We would have much preferred if the game switched between 3D gameplay and 2D cutscenes, if this was the level of visual storytelling that was possible. So moving forward, we hope a sequel can present these characters in a far more compelling way. We want the video game counterparts to be as fun and charming as they are in the movies. Cutscenes should feel like a reward instead of homework. Number 3. Keeping the boss fights epic. The last 2 pitches may seem like we're pretty down on Sonic Frontiers, but that's not true. While not perfect, we had a lot of fun with this game, and the boss battles were a particular highlight. Many of the boss encounters are epic showdowns with titanic bosses that loom large over the landscape. The boss encounters work so well, as they often lean into an element in Sonic's speed arsenal. The Stingray is a great example of this. As you run along his tail, Sonic feels like a true speed superhero. The same can be said for the Supersonic sections, which are accompanied by those early 2000s scream rock tracks. These battles are ridiculous in the best sense of the word. Moving forward, we would love to see these boss battles return, and even more so, we want more battles and bosses that really focus on Sonic's speed skills. The only additional pitch we would have links to the presentation. The enemies in this game are mechanical, dark, and grimy. In contrast to Sonic and his colorful friends, this can come across as inconsistent. Moving forward, it would be amazing to see bosses and enemies that better resemble the Sonic universe. Number 2. Bring life to the world. While running around the different islands at top speed as Sonic is undoubtedly one of the best parts of Sonic Frontiers, we can't help but feel as if these islands are lacking some serious life. Everything feels so barren and alienated. The islands feel like a map created by a game developer that has forgotten to furnish them. You could argue that this is done for storytelling reasons, but that's a lame excuse. Why couldn't we have seen more secondary characters outside of the main story inhabit the island? Or what if each island had its own new and distinct set of residents? Certain tasks and collectibles in the game could be tied to secondary characters from Sonic's universe. It would have given the whole game so much more life. There are a few times when Sonic Frontiers gets this right. For example, Sonic's interactions with the Elder Coco, and of course the Big the Cat fishing minigame. If we got Big the Cat, there's no reason why other characters like Rouge the Bat, Cream the Rabbit, or Vector the Crocodile couldn't inhabit the islands. In a Sonic Frontiers sequel, we want islands that have life. Islanders to race past, NPCs to talk to, and classic characters to complete side quests for. Number 1. Not a sequel. For a video covering 5 pitches for Sonic Frontiers 2, this might seem like a cop-out, but stick with us. Sonic Frontiers is a strange game to talk about. The world is barren, the design is inconsistent, and the cutscenes are extremely boring. Yet despite all of this, we still had a lot of fun with this game. Mostly because you can see the potential. There are elements in a formula here that could go on to be great if they're improved upon. So many will ask, couldn't Sonic Team do this in a Frontiers sequel? While that is certainly possible, we think the world and tone that Frontier is set up would limit the team's ability to truly expand moving forward. In Sonic Frontiers, ugly floating steel pipes and barren lands have been established. It's a part of its identity. We believe it would be better to bring what worked into a brand new entry in the Sonic franchise. The gameplay here works. What doesn't is the presentation. Let's bring some color back to Sonic. Let's create a cohesive world that players want to explore. Sonic has such a unique and colorful cast of characters, and with such good writing here, it would be amazing to see more of them return with this style of gameplay. We see Sonic Frontiers as a prototype, a transitional title on the road to a new entry that will truly deliver upon what Frontiers could have been. But that's just our thoughts. What do you think? Do you want to see Frontiers 2, or should Sonic dash into a different direction for the sequel? Leave a comment below and let us know.
You wanna grab somebody, make your body go boom boom.